It's time to get off the bench with WBAG Sports, Alamance County's premier sports coverage since 1947.
Welcome into another edition of WBAG Sports Off the Bench, presented as always by the good folks over at For All Occasions. Make sure you stop in 3266 South Church Street in Burlington. Let them make it the most special and easiest Valentine's Day for you yet. You can see behind me just a preview of what they have to offer. A perfect presentation in a gift basket, bottles of wine, chocolates, beer, gifts, snacks. They've got it all for you. Once again, let For All Occasions take care of your Valentine's Day. It is a Monday. Another week is come and gone. That means it's time for another weekly recap here with WBAG Sports. And joining me today, Mr. Rogers himself, a very familiar face and voice throughout Alamance County, ABSS school board member, great friend of WBAG Sports, Seneca Rogers. Seneca, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing well, Vance. Appreciate you having me. Appreciate you letting me be a part of this with you today. And just grateful that, that storm, that winter storm wasn't as bad as what they first predicted, because who knows what we would be dealing with right now. Even though it's still some weather out there to deal with, it's not as bad as what it could have been.
No, absolutely not. We did get very lucky there. Very fortunate. Well, we do have a lot to talk about today, Seneca. The weather, as you mentioned, held off for Friday night, allowed all of those games to get in, and one that was pushed up to Thursday as well. We'll start with that one, round 2 for the Battle of Burlington, a matchup you're very familiar with, close to the heart for you, Seneca. And this one, round 2, belongs to the Bulldogs. Both boys and girls varsity matchups taken by Williams, 58-50 in the girls' game, 88-33 in the boys' game. Let's talk about the girls' game first. The matchup that went to overtime with a tale of two halves, really a strong first half for Williams, a strong second half for Cummings, allowing them to make that comeback and tie it up. But in overtime, the Lady Bulldogs were able to be come out on top a little bit too much. I've been impressed all year long with this Cummings team. Seneca, they're one of the teams I've got pegged as the most improved in this conference. They've surpassed their win total from last year. They didn't get a conference win at all last year. They're able to have 3 already this year. But now Williams is on a 2-game winning streak, so they seem to be finding their way a little bit as well.
Yeah, like you said, that Cummins girls team is got to be the most improved team. They do. You can just tell by on the court what's going on, and the players. I know it's a couple of new players to the program over there, but even some of their holdover players from who was already there at Cummins, I can tell that their game is even done went up to another level. So that's good to see. And I was actually there to watch this game. So it was a tale of two halves, because Williams just seemed like their girls just came out their first half, and I was like, oh, they're all over everything. Like, they were getting all the rebounds, all the loose balls. They were pushing it ahead, knocking down the shots. And I was like, well, if Cummins don't come out in this second half and do anything, then this is just going to be a blowout. That is what this is going to be, and it's going to be over with early. But that second half, it seemed like Cummins came out with a lot more fire to getting after it on the defensive end, rebounds, all of that stuff. And it just seemed like Williams could not get anything really going. And so it was exciting to see and for them to go into that overtime game. And then down the stretch, it just seemed like Williams made a couple of more plays that the Cummins ladies didn't make. And it looked like what's my girl Mitchell for Cummins. It looked like down the stretch she might have been giving out a little bit of gas and stuff. But I mean, that's a young lady who's averaging close to 30 points a game. So, she's going to always get the other team's main focus. And Williams was really focusing on her, picking her up full court about most of the game and everything, and making her work on offense. If she didn't have the ball in her hands, making her work to try to get it back. So I think they came in, Coach Cheek and them came in with a good game plan. Now that second half about got blown up, but they still came out with that win. But it was a great and exciting game. I think that's what I've been wanting to see from the Cummins girls team over these past couple of years is them being back competitive, because I remember back when I was there, our girls teams was always really competitive. So it's good to see them back in that space.
Absolutely, no, I agree. And then, like you say there, you touched on a little bit with Mitchell kind of running out of gas there at the end. That's been one of the main issues for this Lady Cavs team, and just kind of has been attrition, kind of been depth and stamina as they get into some of these closer games at the end there. They do sometimes tend to maybe give out of gas there, and that's to no fault of their own. Again, that's just a depth issue that is going to get fixed as things get going down the line. I think the future is very bright for both of these teams, Williams and Cummings. And again, the Lady Bulldogs now on a 2-game winning streak. You can see the we've got the scoreboard put up now, so we'll look at that there. We'll move to the boys' side of things. The Bulldogs get another big win, 88-33. They move to 6-2 in conference play, their 4th straight victory. They're coming after 2 straight conference losses. They've been able to battle back, win 4 straight now. And stop me if you've heard this one before, Seneca, but Kobe Elliott and Bubba Sims led the way in scoring for the Bulldogs.
I mean, they're just a dynamic duo of players and ball players and everything. And I mean, Kobe to me is one of the smoothest basketball players I done seen like around. Like as far as his overall game, you can't really speed him up. You can't really get him out of what he wants to do. And I love his mid-range game. I love how like he can get into that mid-range, because I feel like that's a lost art, especially at the high school level. And he still has a lot of that. And then Bubba is probably one of the best athletes just in our county right now
bottom.
Overall, as just an athlete overall. So I mean, like I said, they're a hard duo to deal with. They get after it on both ends. And I mean, when you got both of them averaging over 22, almost 23 points a game, they're going to always put you in positions to be able to win. It hurt. I can't lie to you, Vance. It hurt my heart being a Cummins guy to see them lose like that to Williams, even though I know a lot of the Williams players because my nephew going to Williams. It still hurt my heart and stuff. And seeing the guys, I mean, I felt like in the first quarter, Cummins was coming out trying to get some stuff going, but it just seemed like it just started a couple of misses and a couple of things not going their way. I started seeing a couple of the guys putting their heads down, and it just seemed like after that first quarter or so, it was just like this is just not going to go our way. Which I know the young man Jason Thompson, I think in the game against Graham, he ended up with like over 30 some points in that game. So I don't know if maybe a holdover, because I heard that he took a couple of hard falls in that game, that maybe coming into this Williams game, he might have been a little bit, ailed through that. But I mean, he was still out there toughing it through. And if you, as I always say, if you're on the court, if you're on the field or whatever, there's no excuses, because you stepped out there still.
Absolutely.
But yeah, it was, like I said, it was a tough game for me to watch, being a Cummins guy and stuff. But I mean, hey, that Williams team got a good team. They're very fast and athletic too.
Yep. And that's something that I've talked about throughout the season. You mentioned Kobe Elliott there. I've called him on broadcasts, on radio shows, on this YouTube page, my conference player of the year. He is personally my favorite player to watch in the conference because of the things you said. He can't be sped up. You can't get him off his game. And if there is ever a knock any at all against Bubba Sims, he does get in some foul trouble throughout some games. He's fouled out a couple times that I've been in the building. And I know he has a tendency to pick up a couple 3 fouls early in the first half sometimes. Kobe Elliott has no problem when that happens, putting everybody on his back, putting the entire team on his shoulders. He doesn't change the way he plays, but he steps up his game even more when Bubba Sims goes out, when Isaiah Long goes out, when Robert Davis goes out, anybody that it may be. Whenever Elliott needs to get to that next level, he has no problem doing that. And that's something I've really enjoyed watching him do throughout the year. You mentioned the rest of the Bulldogs team. They've got 2 very important games coming up, Seneca. This February here in this conference, in this Alamance County, is going to be a thrilling month. Williams still has Eastern and Southeast on their schedule one more time. Both of those teams sit atop of them in the conference play. Cummings, they're still looking for that first conference victory, but I think they've got the athletes, they've got the team to sneak up on some people and make some noise here in this conference. So watch out for them come February as well. But Williams, their schedule down the stretch, they're going to be a team to keep an eye on. We know they're looking to make some noise and get back to the top of the conference as they sit in third place right now.
Yes, definitely. Definitely. Like you said, coming up with them playing Southeast and Eastern, I attended both of those games. Those games were amazing games to be
Mm-hmm.
at. Just great atmosphere, both of them going into overtime
Yep.
and stuff. I mean, you could tell like these three are the top teams in the conference.
Yes.
And then, like you said, with Cummins, I feel like the athletes are there with them as a
Mm-hmm.
team. I feel like some of the guys just got to keep their confidence up if they miss some shots, make some mistakes and everything, and just stay in it. Just as one of my coaches used to say, stay in that moment.
Yeah.
Don't lose that moment just because this doesn't happen. Stay right there and continue to get after it. I think one thing that I've seen from Cummins, as I can say, the season has went on from when I seen them earlier. I can see a little bit more of their defensive intensity picking up, which I think is going to be really crucial for them down the stretch to try to get a couple of those conference wins because they're a quick team too. They got some guys with some good speed, but I think if they really get after it on defense and make the game a little bit more chaotic, I think that'll make a lot of changes for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. And again, I think, like I say, the future's bright. There's some promise there. They've got a good coaching staff. They've got a good core, and they're not the oldest team by any means. The youth is a theme of this entire conference. Really, I think Williams might actually be the oldest, most veteran team in the entire conference. And outside of that, it's a lot of juniors, a lot of sophomores, some freshmen
Mm-hmm.
sprinkled in here and there. Speaking of sophomores, speaking of one of the three teams in the top of the conference, let's move on to the Eastern Alamance at Person game on Friday night. Like the Bulldogs, Eastern Alamance got themselves a varsity sweep as well. Both girls and boys knocking off the Rockets. A bit of a revenge game for the boys. We'll touch on that in a second, but
Mm-hmm.
let's start with the Lady Eagles. They got themselves another big win, 75-33, the final score. Not posted on Max Preps, but you and I, we have our ways to get some scores, so we figured that one out there. And despite the blowout win, you got to give some respect to Person here in this one. They scored 8 points total in the first game against Eastern, so
Mm-hmm.
they were able to come out, put up 33 in this one. Now, they did give up 75, but it does seem like the offense for the Rockets has started to turn the corner. They've gotten themselves a couple wins here throughout the season as well. So they're a team that's, again, one of those teams you think about in the future and is looking good going forward. But we've got to talk about this Lady Eagle team right now. They coming off of a 3-point loss to Southeast last week at home. They
Mm-hmm.
have them on the schedule one more time. This is a team that looks poised to make a run in the playoffs as well. I think they're going to be a very dangerous team coming into this month of February.
Yeah, they are. They're going to be a very dangerous team. When I was when at the beginning of the season when I talked to Coach Curry, Coach
Mm-hmm.
Conda over there, and we were just talking about how some of these girls that she has now on the team is some of the girls that she had when she was the coach at Woodlawn.
Yep.
So it's like a lot of that familiarity. And if anybody knows, when she was at Woodlawn, she won a couple of those Dare tournament
Mm-hmm.
championships with some undefeated teams. So of course, a lot of these girls and her know about winning and what it takes to win, and just watching them get after it on defense, like
It's
Vance, that trap that they have on defense,
You
like
can't avoid it.
that is, yeah,
You
like
sit there in the
like I
stands
mean,
and watching the game thinking, stop dribbling into the trap. But it's there. It's on the
yeah,
left side. It's on the right side. It's in the middle. There's no way to avoid it. Brianna Gregory and Bailey Burris have that thing down to an absolute science, and they are
yes,
well-oiled machine as soon as you cross
yes,
half court.
they are. They really are. And then, like you said, with the Person team,
Mhm.
they did show some improvement from their first game, getting up some more points. So it does show some promise for them as a team. But this Eastern Alamance girls
Yep.
team is going to be something to deal with. That second game that they're going to have against Southeast, I'm pretty sure that's going to be just what like this first
Yes.
game was and everything. And I mean, and we know how good the Southeast
Correct.
girls team is. So when I seen Coach Conda one day last week after that game, I told her, I said you realize now y'all almost sent complete, like, I mean, people opened
Oh,
up their eyes
absolute
after seeing
shockwaves.
that score, but y'all really like just shocked the whole state with that
Correct.
and everything. I was like, so So people are going to be looking at y'all now. And I
Yep.
mean, I think she does have a good team to make a really good run. Like she
Right.
does. She has all the pieces there.
Yeah, and speaking of those pieces, and not to say anyone's copying or emulating anything, but they're built almost exactly the same way Southeast is. They have a stud lead guard in Shania Paler at
Hmm.
Southeast, Rihanna Gregory at Eastern. They have a
Hmm.
really good two guard on the defensive side of the ball. Bailey Burris at Eastern, Ariana Johnson at Southeast. And then on the inside, you've
Hmm.
got Clara LaChapelle at Southeast. You've got Aaliyah Trollinger at Eastern. And then you've got Nevaeh Faust at Southeast, as well as Michaela Scott at Eastern. So they're almost plug and play identical versions of each other. Now, I will say Ariana Johnson has the edge there as probably the best overall player that I've mentioned in this rundown. But those two teams coming down the stretch, they look a lot alike. They look a lot alike each other. And I know they've got another conference game coming up at the end of the season, but I would not be shocked if there's an even more important game between these two teams somewhere down the line, mid-February, early March, to go play for a state title. Both of these teams are that good, in my opinion. You and I have watched a lot of them this year, and I think they both
Hmm.
have what it takes to make a deep run into the playoffs.
Absolutely, Vance. Absolutely. And I mean, like you said, we could possibly see this team play each other just this year 4 times
Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
they got another conference, could end up playing each other for the conference tournament championship and could play each other in the state tourney.
Hmm.
So
And they
so
all
hey,
four could go
it's
4 different ways
yes,
with
yes,
this
they
how
could.
close they are. Let's move to the boys' side of things. The Eagles on that side, the varsity boys, got themselves a much needed win on Friday night, a bounce back victory, 66-49 over Person, coming off what was really no way to sugarcoat it, just a flat out bad performance against Southeast Alamance. They were knocked off 101-63, gave up a school record or allowed Southeast to score a school record 101 points. But they got back right on Friday night, righted the ship. They needed to do so, led by Mason Murphy, the star sophomore for the Eagles. He had 20 points on Friday. Again, some revenge over the Rockets, as that is the only other conference loss that Eastern has this season.
Yeah, and like you said, they took that loss. I mean, that was a big loss against
Mm-hmm.
Southeast. Of course, there was a lot of hype around that game, which a lot of our in-county conference games has a lot of hype around them. But you always want to see how a team responds after
Yes.
something like that. Like, do they still linger into thinking about that? But then they responded in the right way, went out there on the road and took care of business at
Mm-hmm.
Person. And also, it was a little bit of a get back game because they lost to Person earlier in conference play. So to get that win back and then also to show their response after taking that loss that they took against Southeast, I think that shows a lot of character about this team and how they're built also
Yeah.
too. And the young man Mason Murphy, he's so skilled to be a
Yes.
sophomore player and as tall as he is too. And I mean, like he's a really skilled
Yep.
basketball
He
player. I like watching
handles the
his
ball
game.
like a guard. He's naturally left-handed, so that throws defenders off anyway when he drives the lane and goes up with that left hand. But he's just as good with his right as he is with his left. He can use his off hand, and he's starting to figure out his jump shot a little bit as well, getting that dialed in. One of the things I've said about him and something I think he's kind of coming into his own with towards the end of this season is being a sophomore. He's had to kind of learn that, yeah, you are 6'5", you are 220, 225. Go in there and you can compete. You can bang with those older seniors and juniors in the paint. And he's started to realize that he's gotten a little less timid on the inside. And I think that's going to help the Eagles as we go down the stretch here into the month of February. And again, like you say, the bounce back, those games, the 101-63, that kind of game, those are anomalies. They don't happen
Hmm.
often, but they can snowball and result in the rest of the season going south as well. So it is, like I say, it does say a lot about the leadership of Coach Parrish Walker and what he's able to do.
Hmm.
Kamal Smith, Xavier McPherson, his veteran guards, Hunter Eichmann, guys like that. Christian Hester coming off the bench being a vocal leader on that team. Those guys able to gather their composure after what was an absolute domination by Southeast, really from
Hmm.
second quarter on. I know the first quarter was a little closer. It was 6 points going into the second quarter, but really from the tip off, Southeast had control of that game. So it's nice, like you say, to see Eastern be able to bounce back gather some composure and some poise there, because they too have a lot of big games left coming down the stretch.
Mhm.
Like we mentioned, Williams has Southeast and Eastern on the schedule. Well, Eastern has Southeast and Williams on the schedule. So there's a lot coming up. They've also got another game with Graham as well
Mhm.
down the line. So there's conference matchups left all the way, all throughout. I know the three that we're focused on is that triangle of Williams, Southeast, and Eastern at the top. But there's some sneaky teams that can cause some problems, as well as we've seen this person loss may come back to haunt Eastern Alamance. So
Right.
it's gonna be a matter of showing up and having your A game every night for the rest of the season, that I think is gonna make this coming down the stretch so much fun as we head towards the month of February.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. I mean, your rundown of it, Vance, is perfect on that. Like you said, they still have the Southeast and Williams game, but you cannot overlook what could happen with a Western or a
Mm-hmm.
Graham, because that's the great thing about this conference now, with all of these in-county matchups. It
Yep.
builds that rivalry, but also now everybody is just looking to, hey, I want to beat them,
Yeah.
because then I
Down.
might run into them. I might run into them at Alamance Crossing. I might
Mm-hmm.
run into them at Tanger or out to eat somewhere or something. So I want to say like, hey, we gave y'all that loss. So they have to pay attention to those big matchups, but everything right now is going to be critical in this second half of this conference play.
Absolutely. And like you say, it's spoiler season. There's some of these teams who know they're not really in the running to get to the top of the team, like a Western Alamance, to get towards that top of the conference. But there's nothing better than playing spoiler against one of your in-county rivals when their season's going well and you get to knock them off. And then you can take that with you. Like you say, that victory goes out in public. That victory goes years and years and years down the line, especially when it is all county competition like this. I think that is going to make for a very fun end of the season. Let's talk about the team at the top now of the conference, the Southeast Alamance Stallions. They're atop the conference in both boys and girls, and they continued to stampede through the conference on Friday night. Victories over the Southern Alamance Patriots, the Lady Stallions. They're a wagon. Seneca, we just touched on them a little bit, but and they continue to dominate throughout this conference. They've got one goal in mind, though. It's not necessarily conference play. I know they'd like to be undefeated. They'd like to win a conference championship, but their goal is to repeat as state champions like they were last year, and they seem more than poised to do so at this point in the season.
Absolutely. I mean, they are well coached, well put together, just overall great basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you watch them play, even in a game where it's a blowout and they already know, like, hey, we're up by like 30 points, you can still see their focus to the details
Yeah.
of what needs to go on. And that just shows me a team who does have their bigger goal in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not just us winning tonight. It's not just us going undefeated here. We have a bigger goal that we're trying to do, and to make that kind of history is what they're going after. I mean, they're already a historic team off of one state championship, but then to be able to go back to back will be amazing too. And so it's no shocker to me the way that they continuously win, because I mean, we spoke about a couple of their players earlier. When you have the leadership of a Shania Paler and a Claire LaChapelle,
Yep.
those are great leaders for your team, and they keep everybody in line. But all of the other complementary players that are around them bring so much to their
Mm-hmm.
team also too. Johnson, I mean,
She's unbelievable.
she's a defensive menace.
Yes.
She's a defensive menace, but has a lot of offensive game. Like a
Right.
lot of times you don't see that in players where, they're just as menacing on defense, but then they can come down and give you, like, she could give you a 20-point game
Oh,
like
easy.
it's nothing
Yeah.
also too. So
And have
I
five
mean,
steals on the other side.
yeah, so I mean, they're a great overall team, but like I said, I really enjoy watching them and seeing how they, even in like a win like what they got against Southern on
Mm-hmm.
Friday, you can still see them working on the details and staying focused to the goal and the details of stuff,
Yep.
not just turning this into just any kind of like pickup game. Like, no, we have a goal and they stick to that.
Yep, that's exactly right. They have found themselves in a lot of games this season. I was talking about it last week actually when they were playing Eastern. One of the things I thought would be interesting to watch was what happens when they get down to the fourth quarter and the starters still have to play. When there's 2 or 3 minutes left and Shania Paler, Claire LaChapelle, Ariana Johnson still on the floor. They're not used to it. They're fine with it as they were able to come out with the victory. But one of the more interesting things throughout the season has been the depth of this team and what freshmen like Delise Edwards, Nevaeh Faust,
Mm-hmm.
young girls like Sierra Payton, what they have been able to do and the experience they've been able to get because of the lopsided scores that Payton, Johnson, and LaChapelle are able to put up in the first half. So these young girls come in now and they're seasoned, they're experienced, and they play the Southeast Alamance way as well. That you can tell that Coach Amy Surratt has her effect on even the young girls. The leadership trickles down from the top there with Southeast, and it's mainly on the it starts on the defensive side of the ball. They can score whenever they need to, but what they pride themselves on is suffocating you from the word go. They did so on Friday night, leading 29-0 after the first quarter, held Southern to just 2 points in the fourth quarter. So that goes back to what you were saying there. That game, all things considered, was over by the fourth quarter, but the defensive intensity was still there, not because of Friday night, but because of in 3 weeks, in a month, when this team is where they want to be or on the way to where they want to be, they're going to need to pull back to those games and consider not the effort that it was given there and the things they're working on here at this point in the season.
That's correct. That's absolutely it, and it's really that whole mindset of a bigger goal, and you
Mm-hmm.
see that in teams that are building for championships, and you hit it also too with the depth that they
Yeah.
have, and those are young players coming in and giving you great minutes. They're not just coming in just giving you some spots minutes for people to just rest. They're coming in and really contributing, really keeping along with what we done seen over this past year of
Yep.
what Southeast Alamance girls basketball team is. And so it's great to see that depth, and also it also gives you a glimpse into what their future is going to look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you say, these freshmen, these young sophomores, they've not only earned the, I guess, usual way to put it, the garbage time minutes. They've not earned those. They've now found themselves where Nevaeh Faust, Elise Edwards, they're coming off the bench in the first quarter, early in the first quarter. They're coming right in and giving actual, legitimate, meaningful minutes. And then down the stretch at Eastern Alamance, Nevaeh Faust and Delise Edwards, two freshmen, Sierra Payton, all three of those girls, young, experience now, were in the game in the meat and potatoes when it mattered at Eastern Alamance and what ended up being a 3 point victory. So, like you say, it
Mm-hmm.
not only allows for them to gain experience, they gain meaningful experience and then earn their way into the actual rotation like they've done here,
Mm-hmm.
just adding to not the I think it gives a tighter security blanket to Coach Surratt over there now, knowing that even in the end of games, yes, she doesn't have to risk getting her players hurt because she has the five other players to come off the bench. Now she can be legitimately 10 deep when it matters as
Yes.
well. And I think that it helps her sleep a little bit extra at night, especially. And that mindset is something her and I have talked about as well this season and going down the stretch here as we get ready to do so.
Yes, sir.
So let's move to the boys' side of things. Southeast extended their winning streak to 6 games, 62-56 over a victory on Friday night. So another big win, not necessarily as dominant as you may think from the Stallions, but this team is playing some really good basketball right now. They're undefeated in conference play, and they have the makeup that we talked about there for Eastern and Southeast as well. They're led by a good guard in Stu Edwards. They've got James Keenan, and then they have that dominant athlete in Donnie Fairley as well. Guys like Ja'Kai McKenzie who can come off the bench or not come off the bench, who can step down in the corner and light it up from either side of the floor from beyond the arc. This team, they're built to go a long ways as well, and I think they've got a lot of fun coming up in this February schedule.
Yeah, and just knowing basketball and watching the Southeast guys, Coach Bo, who's over there, he's a
Yep.
fiery, you know what I'm saying, coach. He's up and down the sidelines all the time, and you can see how that rubs off on
Yeah,
his team too. When you see that in
absolutely.
the games,
Yep.
especially like the atmosphere that they had the other night down at Southern, possibly a couple of them guys who are on that team, they're freshmen, year or so, they might have been Southern kids
Right.
because of, with Southeast being a new school and some of them moving over there with the rezoning. So, that was a new, different type of atmosphere for them also. And I think Coach Bo keeps them into that, but I think they take on his energy too into their game. And the young man, Donnie Fairley, he's an absolute athlete.
It's crazy. He's a man amongst boys.
Yeah, and like so when you see him out there, like he's jumping around out here, he's high flying, but then also he's locking in on defense and he's diving on the ground. I mean, like I think on both his hands, he has
Yes.
about both arms and wrists and everything taped up. I mean, it almost
Yeah.
looks like he's
I
a guy coming straight off the football field, but
was about to
he's
say, I liken his right hand that's taped up to going in. It looks like that's going in a boxing glove. His left hand is taped up like he's going to play for the 1970s Pittsburgh Steelers because it's wrapped. It's just individual pieces wrapped all around his fingers, and he's out there gritting it out, toughing it out. You can see him grimacing a lot of the times. His left hand specifically, that gives him some trouble. It's not comfortable by any means, but he is an absolute warrior. He uses his athletic ability. He finds himself in the right position for almost every rebound. It's unbelievable how he is able to position himself and get there even from the top of the key when the shot is taken. He finds himself in the right spot, getting the rebound, whether it be on offense or defense. It doesn't matter. He's fun to watch, and he also will wake a crowd up in a heartbeat.
Yeah, he will. And I mean, and looking at the score from this game, you could tell this was one of those in-county matchups that
Absolutely.
had like some extra juice with it. Like you said, it was not like this blowout type of win. It wasn't any of that. It was a gritted out, gutted out type of game that's a little bit nip and tuck, a little bit back and forth. Some moments where tensions are running high
Yep.
in the game and stuff. And I think that's another thing too that you're going to get in these moments. But I think as fans and teams too, you got to understand that these tensions are going to get high. Just don't let them overwhelm you. Don't
Yeah.
let them take control of the game.
Yep, I agree, and they've done that. And again, it's like you say, just speaks volumes to what games do mean in this county. This was coming off of a 38-point victory over the second place team in the conference, and then they go
Mm-hmm.
out and get a 62-56 win over a team who, no disrespect to Southern, but on paper is not even in the same category as Eastern or Williams or Southeast. But so it's like you say, these teams, you throw the record books out pretty much every night when the conference is set
Mm-hmm.
up this way, when each of these teams are in the same county, and every game just adds that more extra juice. It's something you and I've talked a lot about. We big fans of the new conference alignment and the fact that all these county schools are not only playing each other, but they're playing each other in conference games that mean something night in and night out. Last one of those conference games from Friday night, Seneca Western at Graham, just a boys only matchup there. The Red Devils got themselves a much needed victory on Friday night. They go 61-48 over the Warriors. Michael Woods for Graham and Drew Cone. That was for Western, a back and forth battle all night long. Woods had 24, Cone had 23, but the supporting cast of the Red Devils was able to step up and help give Graham the edge there as they continue to, I really think, continue to improve coming down the stretch of this season. Coach Cousin now has started to kind of get his system implemented. The players seem a little more bought into what he's got to
Mm-hmm.
offer there. And we know anyway, everybody in this county, if you're tapped in, if you're familiar with it, you know that name and what it means to Alamance County basketball and what he brings and how good of a coach he's going to be anyway. So now that his players have seemed to buy in a little more, I think Graham is trending upwards throughout the rest of this season for sure.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I don't know Coach Cousin for a long time. His
Right.
family and my family are very close, so I've known him for a while. So of course, I was excited for him to be over there at Graham, but now I'm excited to see him and his players get these kind of victories.
Mm-hmm.
That's no knock to Western, but I know what I've been seeing Graham be over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
And like if this possibly was last year, that score would have been completely flipped, or it might have even been a little bit worse of a score.
Right.
And so for them to get a victory like that over a Western and stuff, and I mean, Michael Woods over there, he's a dynamic
Yes.
basketball player. I mean, the kid, I think he's averaging over like 20 some odd points a
Mhm.
game, but also you are starting to get those support players that are stepping up and
Yep.
giving big rebounds, big scoring and stuff too.
The
And I
Ladario
think it is,
Johnson's good over there. Malachi Ware, he's starting to wake up from
yeah.
beyond the 3-point line. Aaron Royster is now he didn't have a huge night on Friday night, but I love the way he runs the offense as a guard as a whole. Doesn't need to do it
Mhm.
by lighting up the scoreboard. He can get it to Johnson, he can get it to Woods, he can get it to Ware. So yeah, like you said, I think the pieces are coming together.
Yeah, I think they are. And I think it is like you said too, where coach cousin, like when me and him talked at the beginning of the year, he was like, the biggest thing is going to be to get these kids to understand that winning mentality,
Mm-hmm.
to get them in that mindset. And he was like, that's why I brought in my father as one of the assistant coaches, because he's been a part of winning at Graham. I was a part of winning at Graham. And I think he's done even had a couple of guys that he played with and a couple of other players from over the history of Graham come over there and talk to the team so they can understand like, hey, Graham has been winning before. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
like this is not a thing. And I think now the players are seeing that and going about that. And you can just feel a good energy around that team too. And then speaking of Western, like, that Western team, they're going to
Yeah,
come in, they're going to be playing hard. They're going to be getting after it every game too. And they got a couple of players that, hey, things start to go, they can start to really, as they say, they can start to cook on the court.
absolutely.
They can get things cooking, and you never know how that's going to go down for them. So, I mean, like, we already done hit the theme. These in conference, in county games, they can
Mm-hmm.
go either way on any night. They can meet up again down there at Western, and it could be a totally different script for them then in that game. So, I like to see that kind of matchup, and big congratulations to Graham on getting a big victory like that, because on this second half, you want to have that momentum to what it can look like going into that conference tournament with a hoping to have a chance of getting into the state tourney.
Absolutely. Well, that is the final game. That's the score recap. We'll move now into the overall conference standings. I'll throw those up on the screen here, let you take a look at them. Seneca and I will talk about those. We'll start with the girls. I'll get that thrown up on the screen here. Southeast, Eastern, Cummings, Western Alamance, Williams, Person, Southern Alamance, and Graham. And I know, Seneca, we've talked a lot about all of these teams already here, but the thing again that jumps off the page to me first is the Cummings sitting there in third place. It just talks more about that most improved title that I'd said they should have. It speaks about the season. They've had 3 conference wins this year after 0 last year, 9 wins overall on the season already this year, just 6 last year. So they have improved there, and that's something I think they'll continue to do going forward.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. I mean, best improved team, very competitive in games and stuff. I mean, like, even the ones that they didn't took the losses in,
Mhm.
you could see them being competitive and competing the whole time in those games. And I just feel like this is a team primed to um, this year make it to the state tournament,
Yeah,
and also pick them up a couple of wins to build off some really good confidence in what they're going to be doing next year. And also, they're not an old, well, I mean, of course, all of them is high schoolers, but it's not like they're this
correct.
veteran bunch together.
Yep.
Like I said, they got a couple of new players to the program. They got a couple of players that was holdovers, but even some of the players that were holdovers, I think they're only like juniors and
Mhm.
sophomores and stuff like that too. So it does make the Cummings girls basketball team future look bright. I mean, we already know what Southeast is. There's not too much more you can say about them. I mean, they are one of the best girls team in the state, no matter classification. Um, and this Eastern Alamance girls team, like I said, the way they play their defense, that trap, and what they have as a built team with Coach
Mhm.
Kondo over there, I think they've got a lot of stuff to make noise in a state tournament this year, and also continue to probably give Southeast in their next matchups, which could be another 2, 3 more matchups,
Yep.
a lot of run for their money too. and then just thinking about like a Western, because
Mhm.
everybody this year wanted to see what Western was going to look like after some of the players that they lost. They're not the same team as what they were last year, but the one thing with Coach Loy over there, they're going to be a well coached
Yep.
team, and they still got some players that they get hot and some things happen. You never know how that can end up turning out for them too. And then also a lot of their players, they know about winning
Yeah.
too, and that makes a difference sometimes, is that they know about winning. So I like this girls. I like these girls teams that we have, and it's great to see where the standings are sitting right now.
Exactly. And touching back there, just circling back to Cummins, one thing that I'm interested to see talking about the state playoffs, they'll go into it in the 4A state playoffs, having played the 5A Eastern Alamance Southeast, the 6A Williamses, the 5A Westerns. So it'll be interesting to see what they take from playing some of those higher, bigger classification schools into the playoffs. We talked about it in football, and I think it'll rub off on them again here in basketball. And again, like you say, I do think they're more than poised to make that conference or state tournament, and maybe even like you say, get a couple wins, make a run. They're a more than capable team.
Yes,
The Lady Cavs here, especially this version of them this season. Switch it up.
yes,
You can see on the screen now the men's conference standings. The boys team again led by Southeast Alamance. They're at 8-0. Eastern in second. Williams in third. Southern in fourth. Western fifth. Graham, Person, Cummings at 6, 7, and 8. We touched on it a little bit there. Cummings still searching for that first conference win, but don't count them out. I fully expect it to come, and not only one, but maybe a couple or three even going down the stretch here. Southeast and Eastern sitting at the top there. Seneca, we've talked about those battles, but the Bulldogs again 6-2 right there in third place. They're only in third because Eastern holds that tiebreaker at the moment. But all three of those
mhm.
teams still have to play each other one more time before the year ends.
Yeah, and the crazy thing to think about with like these standings is Southeast is undefeated. So
Mm-hmm.
they won them games, you know what I'm saying, that they were in, that they played. But I mean, you could have the Williams team that could be undefeated, because
Yep.
both of those games they lost to Eastern and Southeast, winning the overtime, and they had opportunities in both of them games to
Absolutely.
win them games. But I mean, that also comes down to what happens in basketball. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a play to be made. You have to make that play, and sometimes the other teams make that play, or they knock down them free throws, or they get that critical steal in that moment, and that's what Southeast has been able to do in those tight games. But I mean, we already talked about it earlier. It's going to be interesting to see what this second half is how that's going to play out, because a Southeast is undefeated right now, and they could end up finishing off this season undefeated,
Mm-hmm.
but they could also not, and we could see this top three switch around. But they
Yep.
also, with them talking about them top three, the Southeast, Eastern, and Williams, they have to pay attention to those other teams down at the bottom. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
Southeast was just in a battle with Southern. Eastern, was getting back a win against a person.
Yeah.
So you have them games, and we talked about how Graham has them put together a couple of wins. Coming still looking for that win, but that doesn't mean that they are far off away from it.
Right.
And you cannot overlook a person team that has beaten Eastern before, you know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? So they're very capable of winning a game against them. So it's an exciting thing to see, because you can't just say like, oh, this one team, they're just that dominant team. You know what I'm saying? We don't see
Mm-hmm.
anybody that can beat them. No, it's not a dominant team. There is a big three. I'm not going to say
Yes.
that there's not. There is a big three with Southeast, Eastern, and Williams. There is a big three, but we could be finishing off this season, and that top seeded team could be totally different from what it is right now.
Yep. The way I like to word it is, in my opinion, right now I know that Southeast has the advantage, but there's still three teams that can win the conference. There
Hmm.
is five teams behind them that can beat the three teams that can win the conference, if that makes
Hmm.
sense. And that's what they've got to look forward to. That's what the mindset that those top three teams have to have, in my opinion, coming in down this last stretch as we get into or approach February. Under a month left of conference play. We're in the back half of the conference schedule. It's heating up. It's going to be a lot more fun, and Seneca and I will be here to sit down and talk about it several more times throughout the season. Thank you, as always, Seneca, for joining us here today on this episode of Off the Bench. We love having Mr. Rogers invade our neighborhood a little bit today. So thank you, as always, for sitting down with us this afternoon.
Hey, Vance, I always appreciate you and my guy Todd and WBAG for allowing for me to have these moments of chatting with y'all about our various high school sports and various just sports, period. Hey, I appreciate you guys. Got a lot of love for you guys over there. And just thank you for having me. And hey, anytime I'm ready to hang out in the WBAG neighborhood, always.
Absolutely. We always welcome. The invite is open. As always, thank you so much for watching out there along with us today. Be sure you leave a like and a comment. Smash that subscribe button. Help us continue to grow the page as we continue to bring you some in-depth Alamance County sports coverage on WBAG Sports.